Hi, I'm Frank and welcome to my woodturning channel. This week I'm going to try to tackle a bowl, just a simple bowl, but there's quite a hole in it right through, and I had some leftover epoxy and I tried to just lather it in here, and this was back in the day when I might have just left the hole in here. But what I found now is the more I do these bowls, people don't really want to buy it with a hole in it, even though it's maybe a bit decorative. So I'm going to try to completely fill this hole with some epoxy. So I'll probably carve out a little bit of the black that I had used before, and take a little bit of this black away. And then I'm going to just use a different color. So I got either a red or a violet, and I'm thinking because some of the black may stay in here, the red color might look a little nicer against the black. So I'll have to build some kind of a dam here and try to contain the epoxy and go from there. Okay, let's see how we make out. I'm going to start by just removing some of the excess epoxy and some of the loose bark, and just prepare the area for the epoxy pour. This bowl had been coated with anchor seal, so I'm just using a wire brush to remove it. Just a little bit better chance of the tape sticking. I'm just sealing the inside surface with some duct tape, and then I'll use some hot melt glue all around the edges, just in case there's leakage. On the outside surface, I'm just going to use some thick plastic sheeting. This would be the plastic sheeting you would use for when you're insulating a home. I think it's 6 mil. It's the thickest plastic sheeting I could get anyway. I'm going to add some additional duct tape to the outside of this, again just to minimize any potential for leakage. I didn't think the amount of pour was too large, so I'm just going to use regular epoxy, not the deep cast one, and I guess we'll see how it works. Okay, now it's the moment of truth. We'll do the pour, and hopefully everything will work out well. Well, that didn't work out as well as I'd hoped. The epoxy ended up heating up, so that seemed to cause the tape to lift a bit. And I think I should have rough turned it because I believe there was still wax on the surface, so the tape didn't adhere as well as it should have. So I kept chasing it and adding more tape, and eventually I got it to the point that was pretty reasonable. The outside doesn't look too bad. I think I can true that up and deal with that. Now let's see what the inside looks like. I should have really used the deep pour epoxy. It would not have heated up and I wouldn't have had as much problems. I can see now that the hole is not completely full of epoxy, but maybe there's enough in there that I can just get away with it because I'm going to make the wall relatively thin there. So it might be okay, or I might have to add a little bit of epoxy. Let's get turning and see how it works. The tenon on this piece had already been trued up, so I'm just mounting it in the chuck, and I'm going to turn the bottom of the bowl from behind like this, and I'm just using a 3/4 inch bowl gouge to start. Lots of little chips flying off, but it's actually cutting pretty clean. I don't think I need to use carbide bits. It's cutting fine with a sharp gouge. And these are the Thompson tool powdered metal gouges, so they hold their edge quite well. As I was making the finer cuts with a sharp gouge, you can see I'm getting nice little shavings from the epoxy, so it's not chipping out anymore. It's always nice to see the fine little shavings when I do a final cut. And I'm just going to finish off the bottom with a negative rake scraper, doing some shear scraping here, just where there's some little high spots. I decided to make the rim on this bowl a little bit more rounded shape, and then I'm going to undercut it so as we go deeper into the bowl, the wall thickness gets thinner. If you're enjoying the video, please subscribe and hit the like button. There's still a little bit of a hole here where the epoxy was, but if I make the wall thickness less, I can maybe get right down to that epoxy level. I noticed in this image I had my Fitbit on. I normally take that off. It's much safer to not be wearing that when I'm turning, and I must have just forgotten. Just doing a final cut with a sharp tool, and I think I'm good to go here. I just marked the little ridges in the transition area, and now I'm just using a negative rake scraper just to remove those little ridges only. The rest of the area is fine, straight off the gouge. That leaves the best surface actually. But sometimes it's simpler just to get rid of the little ridges with a scraper. I'll just use this bottoming bowl gouge to finish off the bottom now. Turned out pretty nice. I like the effect on the outside, and there's just a little bit of epoxy on the inside. Yeah, I think it looks good overall. It suits the piece. Here I'm just using the vacuum chuck to remove the bottom. First I'll cut away as much as I can, and then I'll turn the vacuum on and do the remaining cutting and sanding. Now I have the vacuum on, and I'll do my final cuts and sanding. It's always nice to sign your work and put the species of wood on it. For my finish, I'm using the General Salad Bowl finish, and it just is used per the instructions on the can. Basically, you wipe it on and then wipe it off.